Today, we are unpacking an absolutely incredible, literally life or death story that perfectly illustrates why our brains stubbornly reject big changes. More importantly, we're going to see exactly how undeniable, tiny consistency can step in and literally save a life. It's a fascinating look at the mechanics of habit building, and we're going to unpack the whole thing right here. So we start right at the terrifying climax for a guy named Ryan. Picture this. You're sitting in a cold, sterile hospital room, just staring at your test results. For Ryan, it was a total nightmare. He had dangerously high blood pressure, cholesterol absolutely through the roof, a severe risk of heart failure, and he was pre-diabetic. The doctor didn't sugarcoat it. He just looked at him and delivered this devastating reality check. His 35-year-old body was dying as if it were 60, and time was rapidly running out. Now, sitting out in the hospital parking lot, unable to even turn the key in the ignition, Ryan felt completely hopeless. He started replaying his endless cycle of setting massive resolutions and, well, inevitably failing. And I mean, we've all been there, right? You set this huge goal on New Year's only to completely ditch it by February. Ryan thought about the 15 different diets he tried and quit, the expensive gym memberships just collecting dust, the meditation apps he downloaded at midnight in a burst of motivation, only to delete them a week later. It was basically a lifetime of broken promises to himself. But that night, instead of frantically searching for yet another 30-day miracle boot camp or some extreme fad diet, Ryan typed a really simple, heartbreaking question into his phone. Why do I always fail? And that search, it led him to a Dr. Ellison, a psychologist who actually specializes in people who constantly fail at changing their lives. Desperate, Ryan shot him an email at 2 a.m. Honestly, he probably didn't even expect a reply. But Dr. Ellison replied immediately the next morning with an afternoon appointment. And he had one strict, kind of weird condition. Bring nothing except your willingness to start smaller than you think is possible. When Ryan walked in, he immediately started rattling off this massive list of goals. He wanted to exercise daily, eat a perfect diet, sleep 8 hours, read more, be hyperproductive. But Dr. Ellison just stopped him right there. He told Ryan, that's not a plan. That's a wish list. And wish lists do not change lives. Instead, the doctor opened a notebook, drew a simple line down the middle of the page, and dropped a fundamental psychological truth bomb. Big changes, they trigger massive resistance. Your brain literally perceives huge, sudden changes as danger. So it fights back, it resists, and it eventually forces you to quit. But tiny habits, they slip right past our mental security guards. They are so incredibly small that the brain doesn't even notice them, which makes them essentially impossible to fail at and super easy to put on autopilot. So right then and there, Dr. Ellison handed Ryan his entire life-saving prescription. And it was so unbelievably tiny, so seemingly insignificant, that Ryan actually laughed out loud in total disbelief. The prescription was exactly 2 push-ups. Not 50, not 20, not even 5, literally just 2. But here is the absolute key to how this was structured. Dr. Ellison anchored this tiny 6-second action to an existing automatic daily routine. Step 1, brush your teeth. Step 2, immediately drop down and do 2 push-ups. And the strict rule for this? Ryan had to do it every single day for 30 days straight. No excuses, no negotiations. Sure, he could do more if he really felt like it, but he absolutely, non-negotiably had to do 2. Now, here's where the profound psychological pivot really happens. Dr. Ellison explained that this whole exercise, it wasn't actually about getting ripped overnight. It was entirely about tricking the brain into rebuilding basic self-trust. Honestly, the physical action of 2 push-ups is basically irrelevant at first. But every single time Ryan dropped down for those 6 seconds, he was proving to his own brain that he was finally someone who keeps his word. And you have to see how rapidly this snowballs. Day 1, yeah, he felt a little ridiculous, but he did his 2 push-ups. Fast forward to day 5. He drops down to do his 2 and thinks, well, I'm already down here anyway, and effortlessly knocks out 8 more. By day 9, those 2 push-ups had organically morphed into 15, followed by 20 jumping jacks and chugging a big glass of water. Because he totally eliminated the mental friction of just getting started, doing a little extra felt effortless instead of feeling like a chore. By week 3, something truly amazing started happening. This tiny, daily consistency began changing him from the inside out. And I want to emphasize, these weren't forced, willpower-draining goals. They were unforced biological shifts. In week 3, he was just automatically taking the stairs instead of the elevator, simply because his body wanted to move.
By week 5, he wasn't forcing down dry salads, his body was genuinely craving vegetables. Week 7, waking up 10 minutes earlier, no alarm clock needed, just to have a little more time for his morning routine. Okay, so week 9 rolls around and Dr. Ellison introduces a second tiny habit that seemed just as trivial as the first one. Step 1, sit down for lunch. Step 2, read exactly 1 page of a book. Seriously, just 1 page. But guess what? That 1 page quickly turned into 5. 5 pages turned into a whole chapter. And very organically, that resulted in Ryan finishing 4 entire books that month. That was more than he'd read in the previous 5 years combined. Mind-blowing, right?
Month 4 brought a third tiny habit, and here we really see how a simple action acts as a gateway drug to better health. The new rule was just to stretch for 2 minutes right after getting home from work. Naturally, that gatewayed into 10 minutes of stretching, which then blossomed into full-on following along with yoga videos and eventually led to taking long evening walks. It effortlessly grew into a complete, comprehensive evening fitness routine without a single ounce of mental resistance. Then we hit month 6. Ryan walks back into the clinic and sits in front of the exact same doctor who gave him that literal death sentence half a year prior. And the doctor is just staring at the new test results in absolute shock. Ryan's blood pressure, perfectly normal. His cholesterol had completely plummeted. He'd lost a noticeable amount of weight. And the absolute kicker? He had completely reversed the pre-diabetic diagnosis. All of it fueled entirely by the compound interest of 2 daily push-ups. The doctor practically demanded to know what intensive, crazy boot camp or strict starvation diet he'd been on. When Ryan simply told him, "I did 2 push-ups every morning," the doctor was totally baffled. But Ryan understood exactly what had happened. You see, the biggest transformation wasn't physical, it was his mind. That toxic voice in his head that constantly whispered, "You're weak and you always fail," was completely gone. His brain finally recognized him as someone who is strong, someone who follows through, and someone who achieves real change through steady consistency instead of brute force. By month 8, Ryan was up to doing 50 push-ups effortlessly, every single morning. He'd finish his sets, stretch, drink his water, and look at himself in the mirror. And he realized right then and there that the dying, hopeless man sitting in that hospital parking lot, he was completely gone. Ryan was fully, undeniably alive. Ultimately, Ryan's incredible journey perfectly illustrates the sheer power of the tiny habit rule. This explainer proves that true self-improvement doesn't require punishing yourself with some grueling 30-day challenge that your brain is just going to rebel against anyway. It really just requires tricking your brain with an action so ridiculously small, so easy that you literally can't fail. You just do it every single day, and you let time do the heavy lifting, compounding that microscopic little effort into a massive, life-altering transformation. So as we wrap this up and you think about those monumental changes you want to make in your own life, those goals that always feel just a little too overwhelming or out of reach, I want to leave you with one very simple question. What will your 2 push-ups be tomorrow morning? Seriously, find that incredibly tiny action, attach it to something you already do every day, and start your very own snowball effect.